Hot Road begins by showing a 14-year-old young girl named Kazuki Miyaichi. Kazuki was a quiet middle school student and hardly ever showed any expression on her face. Even when caught by the police for stealing at a convenience store, she also still didn't show an expression of guilt. On the contrary, her two friends who were caught with her felt so scared and guilty that they burst into tears. When she returned home, Kazuki told her mother that she had been caught by the police for stealing. However, her mother didn't seem to care, making Kazuki feel even more lonely and unloved. Kazuki thought her mother only loved Suzuki, her mother's boyfriend. The next scene shows Kazuki's immense loneliness after her father died when she was a child. Kazuki finds out her late father and mother got married out of necessity. Even though, at that time, her mother still loved Suzuki, the man she fell in love with in high school. It was also revealed that Suzuki was about to divorce his wife and would start a relationship with her mother again. Of course, this made Kazuki's mother even more indifferent to her, which made her end up hating Suzuki. Fast forward, Kazuki has a close friend at school named Eri. Eri is a female student from Yokohama who recently transferred to the same school as Kazuki. Since transferring schools, Eri has been exposed to many rumors. One of them said she had an abortion. The classmates don't like Eri except for Kazuki, who actually thinks Eri is different from what the other students at school have been gossiping about. Eri also seems to have a free association. One night, Eri takes Kazuki to meet a senior girl from her old school named Hiroko. Hiroko's mischievous appearance surprised Kazuki, but she agreed to go with Hiroko and Eri to meet Toru Tamami, Hiroko's boyfriend. When they arrived at a place called headquarters, Toru apparently wasn't there. Then Hiroko took the two of them somewhere else and met a young man named Hiroshi Haruyama. The place where they met Hiroshi was by the sea. When Eri and Hiroko had a friendly conversation with Hiroshi, Kazuki chose to be alone. She seemed uninterested in their conversation and spent her time looking at the sea alone. On the other hand, Hiroshi seemed interested in Kazuki and he approached where she was sitting alone. Hiroshi invited Kazuki to chat, but she ignored him. The quiet Kazuki let Hiroshi know that she had trouble at home. Hiroshi then tried to comfort Kazuki and teased her by splashing seawater on her face. That action angered Kazuki, and she immediately hit Hiroshi. Hiroshi got angry and threw a bucket of water at Kazuki. He then threatened that she should not show her face again in front of him. Their bickering caught the attention of Eri and Hiroko. After returning home, Eri called Kazuki to tell her she had never seen Hiroshi angry like that. She also tells about Toru, Hiroko's boyfriend, who is the head of a motorcycle gang called Night. Meanwhile, Hiroshi is the frontman and a member who is expected to replace Toru as chairman. Time passed and the next few nights, Eri invited Kazuki to come to the Night motorcycle gang gathering. Arriving there, a group of Night gang members approached Eri and Kazuki and would take them to meet Toru. Toru insisted on meeting Kazuki and he teased her out of curiosity to see the girl who dared to hit the frontman of his gang. When Toru was teasing Kazuki, Hiroshi suddenly came and pulled Kazuki away from Toru. He apparently didn't like the gang leader being around the girl he liked. Yes, apparently Hiroshi had liked Kazuki since they first met a few nights before. He even lightly asked if Kazuki would be his girlfriend. Long story short, Hiroshi insisted on taking Kazuki home on a motorbike. At home, Kazuki's mother didn't show any concern, even though Kazuki kept coming home late at night after hanging out with Eri. When Kazuki and her mother drank tea together, her mother didn't care about Kazuki at all. Instead, her mother talked about her love story with Suzuki, which was considered so sad. Kazuki seemed to be holding back her feelings. While listening to her mother's story, she felt that her mother didn't care how lonely she had been. One time, Eri and Kazuki were walking home together after school. Suddenly, a strange man driving a car stopped behind them and took them for a walk. Eri and Kazuki, who were so innocent, agreed to go for a walk in the man's car. However, in the middle of the road, Eri and Kazuki noticed another group of people also following them in another car. Realizing that, Eri grabbed Kazuki's hand to escape the car. They both tried to run away, but the men following them chased after them. Kazuki fought the boys, but they swiftly almost incapacitated her. Luckily, Kazuki managed to escape and hid from their pursuit. On the other hand, Hiroshi got a call from Hiroko to save Kazuki and Eri. Hiroshi wasted no time and caught up to Kazuki's hideout. When he opened the door to save her, Kazuki looked at him with a grateful look. After being saved, Kazuki didn't say anything and let Hiroshi hug her, while Eri was already crying hysterically from fear. Even though she didn't show any expression, Hiroshi seemed to know Kazuki's fear and sadness. After dropping Kazuki off, Hiroshi didn't leave immediately but followed her into the house. Sure enough, once inside the house, Kazuki immediately cried and called out to her mother. Hiroshi's heart was deeply moved by that sight, and he let Kazuki cry in his arms for the first time. The scene shifted, and one morning, Kazuki was seen waking up in a strange place. While she was confusedly looking around, a middle-aged woman entered the room. Apparently, the woman was Hiroshi's mother, who explained that Kazuki had been unconscious for 2 days. While at Hiroshi's house, Kazuki learns that Hiroshi's mother is divorced and is currently married to another man. Hiroshi also has a half-brother. Hiroshi apparently does not live in the house with his mother and his new family. Even so, the family still looks close and so happy. This fact made Kazuki sad because the circumstances were far different from her own family. In the evening, Kazuki decided to go home. At home, she saw her mother, who seemed so worried about the state of Kazuki, who had been missing for a few days. Her mother was angry and provoked Kazuki to vent all the feelings she had held back all this time. Kazuki said she was sick of being fed by her mother's boyfriend, which provoked her to return to discussing her love story with Suzuki, which was so pathetic. But Kazuki's mother seemed not to have considered Kazuki's feelings at all. After hearing about the story, Kazuki chose to leave the house because she was so disappointed in her mother. Her mother tried to stop her, but Kazuki insisted on packing up and leaving the house. After leaving the house, Kazuki apparently went to meet Eri and her friends. She tells about the argument with her mother and her decision to run away from home. Fortunately, Eri's friends were very kind to Kazuki, and Hiroko allowed Kazuki to stay at her house for a while. On the other side of Knight's base, Toru gives Hiroshi a motorbike. The motorbike is a vehicle that has been handed down from generation to generation by the Knight chairman to their successors. Toru said he appointed Hiroshi as the successor because he would focus on work and have a more serious relationship with Hiroko. Hiroshi's friends quickly heard about the news, and they were very happy with Toru's decision to appoint Hiroshi as successor. Meanwhile, the news was also heard by Knight's opposing gang, Bakuto. They saw the change of leader in the gang as an opportunity to destroy the Knights. Bakuto begins to launch an attack strategy against the motorcycle gang. First, they made a fuss at the convenience store, where Hiroshi was part-time. Even so, Hiroshi didn't pay much attention to the disturbance, who focused more on Kazuki. Kazuki and Hiroshi's relationship became even closer, especially after Hiroshi confirmed Kazuki to go back to school. But one night, the disturbances from the Bakuto gang escalated. A member of the Knights gang and a close friend of Hiroshi reported how the Bakuto gang threatened the Knights members they encountered on the streets. Hiroshi finally decided to come alone to Bakuto's headquarters. Hiroshi brought a pipe and started beating up the Bakuto members who tried to prevent him from meeting the leader. But of course, Hiroshi, who's alone, could not fight the Bakuto gang, and he was badly beaten. Hiroshi returned to the Knights' headquarters battered. His condition was apparently known to Kazuki, who later came to see his condition. Kazuki burst into tears again, looking at Hiroshi, who was injured in the head. Her tears touched Hiroshi's feelings deeply, making him wonder what would happen to Kazuki if he died from being involved in a motorcycle gang. After a few days, Hiroko suddenly told Kazuki about her plan to move to another city with Toru. This meant Kazuki had no place to stay. Hiroshi, knowing this, invited Kazuki to stay temporarily in the house he rented. Long story short, Kazuki and Hiroshi lived together and spent their days happily. Until one night, Kazuki accidentally saw her mother, who was going to spend the night at the hotel with Suzuki. Kazuki followed into the hotel, and in front of the elevator, she asked if her mother didn't feel sorry for her father. After the meeting at that hotel, Kazuki decided to return home. Inside the house, Kazuki saw her mother crying alone in the room. her mother felt sad and devastated at Kazuki's words in front of her boyfriend. Moreover, her mother explained that Suzuki had always been worried about Kazuki and asked about her condition every time they met. Kazuki finally admitted she was lonely because her mother never cared about her. While crying, Kazuki asked if her mother had ever felt happy since she was birth. Unfortunately, the mother didn't answer the question, making Kazuki's heart break even more. Unexpectedly, Hiroshi secretly followed Kazuki back home and overheard the mother and daughter conversation. Hiroshi then asked Kazuki's mother if she had hated Kazuki all this time. Kazuki's mother didn't answer either, which finally made Hiroshi say his intention to take Kazuki away with him. Hearing that, Kazuki's mother finally reacted. She recalled the sweet memories of when Kazuki was a child, which made her realize her love for that child. Kazuki's mother begged Hiroshi not to take her away and admitted how happy she felt about Kazuki's presence in her life. After knowing each other's feelings, Kazuki and her mother made up. On that day too, Kazuki returned home. Meanwhile, Hiroshi told Kazuki she should be a strong girl and not depend on anyone, including him. The Knight's members gathered a few days later to plan revenge against the Bakudo gang. Unfortunately, their plan can't go smoothly because Hiroshi has a high fever. On the other hand, Hiroshi was already intending to go and meet the other Knight's members when Kazuki suddenly came waiting in front of the house. Kazuki apparently found out Hiroshi had a fever and forced her way inside the house. Hiroshi then had no choice but to allow her to take care of him. Even so, Hiroshi actually still plans to take revenge on the Bakudo gang with the other Knight's members. He asked Kazuki to go out to buy a drink while calling Kazuki's mother and asking permission for Kazuki to stay at his house to take care of him. After buying a drink, Kazuki called her mother and said she approved of her relationship with Suzuki. However, upon returning home, Kazuki was surprised to see the house in complete darkness. Hiroshi was not in the house and had apparently gone to meet the assembled Knight's members. Unbeknownst to Hiroshi, the Knight's members cancelled their plan to attack Bakudo because the police were patrolling that night. Sure enough, Hiroshi saw the police blockade and decided to turn his vehicle around. That's when from behind, there was a truck speeding towards him. The next day, Kazuki was still waiting for Hiroshi to come home. It's just that morning it wasn't Hiroshi who came, but a friend and member of the Knights who informed her that Hiroshi had an accident. Kazuki panicked and rushed to the hospital. The Knight's members gathered at the hospital and informed her that Hiroshi was in a coma. Moreover, Hiroshi's condition was apparently so severe that they had better prepare for the worst news. Kazuki still insisted on waiting for Hiroshi outside the treatment room. Hiroshi's friend who accompanied Kazuki told about Hiroshi who had intended to leave the Knights for Kazuki's sake. Last night was supposed to be Hiroshi's last night carrying out his duties as Knight's leader and taking revenge on Bakudo. After that, Hiroshi intended to stop so as not to worry Kazuki anymore. Unfortunately, fate said otherwise and currently, he is in a worse state. Days passed and Hiroshi did not recover either. Kazuki was so depressed by the situation and again chose to shut herself up at home. It was then that Suzuki came to visit Kazuki and asked her to keep her health in mind. Suzuki said that for Hiroshi, Kazuki's life was very important. Suzuki was apparently a good man because he then asked Kazuki's mother to take care of Kazuki. After all, she was the only person who could save her. Kazuki's sadness peaked that day and she was so afraid that Hiroshi would leave her. Kazuki's mother realized her daughter's state and hugged her tightly while she was wailing. Kazuki begged her mother to save her, which made her mother finally fully realize how lonely her daughter had been. Her mother was also crying with her, especially after she fell unconscious. Kazuki's mother frantically carried Kazuki to the hospital. Fortunately, when she was at the hospital, Kazuki immediately came to her senses. Right at that moment, Hiroshi's younger brother came to Kazuki's room to tell her that Hiroshi had woken up from a coma. Hiroshi's brother revealed the first words Hiroshi said after waking up, that he didn't want to die. Kazuki burst into tears, realizing she had been selfish for not thinking about Hiroshi and only being concerned with herself. She was afraid of feeling lonely to the point of torturing herself, ignoring Hiroshi, who must also be struggling to survive. The next day, Kazuki, who was already healthy, went to visit Hiroshi, who was still lying down, but his condition had improved. The doctor informed Hiroshi's current condition who was paralyzed in his left leg and arm. Kazuki paid no heed to the situation and kept Hiroshi company. Finally, Hiroshi was discharged from the hospital and was seen experiencing paralysis on his left side of the body. Hiroshi tried to overcome the paralysis by continuing to ride a bicycle despite having difficulties. Meanwhile, Kazuki looks like she has become a new student at high school. The hot road scene ended by showing Kazuki and Hiroshi still together. Hiroshi seemed to have worked in a factory, and during his break, he met up with Kazuki to spend time with his girlfriend. The moral that can be learned from this movie is, the feeling of love is so great that it will be able to overcome various obstacles. Whether it's the love between Suzuki and Kazuki's mother, or Hiroshi and Kazuki's love.